My entitled airport passenger insisted I let her board first, snapping, "I deserve priority because my flight is more important than yours." When I declined, she called an employee, laughing, "They'll make you give it up for me." Her smug smile faded when the employee checked her ticket and announced, "Actually, you just got downgraded to standby for harassing another passenger." I was at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, heading to Seattle for a family reunion. I had my boarding pass for Group 2 and was waiting near Gate B23. As the gate agent announced boarding for Group 2, I got in line. Suddenly, a woman in her late 40s, dressed in business attire, approached me. She tapped my shoulder and said, "Excuse me, I need to board now. My flight is more important than yours." I replied, "We're all waiting our turn. Please wait for your group to be called." She huffed and said, "Do you know who I am? I have a meeting that could change lives. I can't be late." I stood my ground and said, "We all have places to be. Please wait your turn." She stormed over to the gate agent, pointed at me, and said, "That man is preventing me from boarding. I demand you let me through. My flight is crucial." The gate agent, Marcus, asked to see her boarding pass. He looked at it and said, "Ma'am, you're in Group 4. Boarding for your group hasn't started yet." She scoffed, "But I have priority." Marcus replied, "I'm sorry, but we must adhere to the boarding process." She turned back to me, her face flushed with frustration, and said, "This isn't over." As I proceeded to board, I couldn't help but glance back. The woman was now engaged in a heated discussion with another gate agent. Moments later, an announcement was made over the intercom. "Attention passengers, due to a disturbance at Gate B23, boarding will be temporarily halted." The terminal buzzed with whispers and curious glances. After a brief pause, Marcus returned to the intercom. "Thank you for your patience. Boarding will now resume. Additionally, we would like to inform Ms. Anderson that due to her behavior, her boarding status has been changed to standby." A collective gasp echoed through the terminal. Ms. Anderson's face turned a deep shade of red as she realized the consequences of her actions. Settling into my seat, I watched as passengers continued to board. Ms. Anderson was nowhere to be seen. As the plane prepared for takeoff, the captain made an announcement. "Good morning, folks. We apologize for the slight delay. We had an incident at the gate, but everything is now resolved. Thank you for your understanding." The flight proceeded smoothly, and I arrived in Seattle without further incident. Reflecting on the events, I was reminded of the importance of patience and respect. Entitlement and arrogance have no place in shared spaces. Weeks later, while browsing through news articles, I stumbled upon a piece about airport incidents. One story caught my eye. A woman at Hartsfield-Jackson had been downgraded to standby for harassing another passenger. The article didn't mention names, but I knew exactly who it was. In the end, justice had been served, and I hoped Ms. Anderson learned a valuable lesson that day. The flight had just reached cruising altitude when I pulled out my phone and put it on airplane mode. I was still thinking about that woman, Ms. Anderson. Her voice, that smug look on her face, and then the complete shutdown she got in front of everyone. It felt like karma on full display. About 20 minutes into the flight, I noticed a bit of a commotion in the aisle. A flight attendant walked briskly past me, then another. They were whispering to each other near the galley. A few passengers around me turned their heads too. Something was going on. Then I heard it. That same voice. Loud and upset. "You can't be serious. I was promised a seat." It was her. Ms. Anderson. I leaned toward the aisle, trying to catch a glimpse. Turns out, she had somehow gotten on the plane anyway. Standby must have worked out for her. But instead of a proper seat, she was now standing in the back row arguing with the flight crew. She was claiming someone was in her seat. Spoiler. They weren't. The flight attendant was firm. "Ma'am, this passenger is assigned to that seat. We found you a different one in the back row. If you don't take it, you'll be removed when we land." She went silent, but the kind where you know it's not over. She finally sat down, face like stone, clearly fuming. I could feel her eyes burning through the back of people's heads even though I wasn't close. About an hour later, I got up to use the restroom near the rear of the plane. As I walked back, she saw me. She didn't say a word at first, just stared. Then, as I was returning to my seat, she stepped into the aisle, blocking me for a second. "You think this is funny?" she hissed, low and angry. I blinked. "What?" "You were smug back there. You think you won? People like you always try to make people like me look bad. You think you're better than me just because you got a seat a few rows up." I couldn't believe she was still going. "I didn't say anything to you," I said calmly, even though my heart started pounding. "You just wait," she muttered, then turned and sat back down. I kept walking, unsure if I'd just been threatened or if she was all bark. By the time we landed in Seattle, I figured that was the end of it. Just one weird person too full of herself, and a flight she made awkward for everyone. But as I walked off the plane and made my way to baggage claim, I saw her again. She was on her phone, pacing, talking fast. I didn't think much of it until I saw a man in a suit and an airport security officer walking up to me near the carousel. "Sir, can we speak with you for a moment?" the officer asked. I looked around, surprised. "Sure. What's going on?" The suited man introduced himself as a representative from the airline. "We had a complaint from a passenger on your flight. She claimed you harassed her at the gate and again during the flight." My stomach dropped. "What? That's not true at all. She's the one who tried to cut in line and started arguing." The officer nodded slowly, as if he'd heard that story already. "Can you walk us through what happened at the gate?" So I told them everything. The entitled demand to board early, her yelling at the gate agent, the boarding downgrade, her tantrum on the plane, her comments when I passed her. I kept my voice calm, clear. The airline rep sighed. "That matches up with the statement from the gate agent. She's been a problem before." I raised my eyebrows. "She does this often?" He nodded. "Let's just say this isn't her first disruption." They thanked me for my time, said I was free to go and that no further action would be taken. But it left a bitter taste in my mouth. That woman wasn't just entitled, she was dangerous in a different way. She knew how to twist situations and make herself the victim. When I got to my hotel, I got an email from the airline. It was a formal apology for the inconvenience and a $250 travel credit. That was nice, but it didn't undo the weird tension I'd felt the entire day. Later that night, I got a message on Facebook from someone I didn't recognize. The name was fake. No profile picture. Just one line. "Next time, keep your mouth shut." I stared at it for a long time. Was she seriously stalking me online now? I reported the message, blocked the account. But it kept bugging me. She had my full name. Maybe she saw it on the flight manifest. Maybe she saw me open my laptop or phone and caught a glimpse of my name. A few days passed. Then another message came from another account with no photo. "Still think you're the hero?" Now I wasn't just annoyed. I was creeped out. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept checking my phone, even after reporting and blocking the second burner account. Something about the tone of those messages, they weren't just trolling. They were personal. Like she wanted to rattle me. And it was working. I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe she just felt embarrassed and wanted to lash out anonymously. But then I got to the family reunion the next day, big outdoor barbecue in my cousin's backyard, and something weird happened. My cousin Jonah came over and asked, "Hey man, do you know someone named Marla? Or maybe Carla? I think a woman called here asking for you." I froze. "What? Someone called here?" He nodded. "Yeah, Mom picked up. She said some woman called, didn't give her name right away, just asked if you were staying here. When Mom asked who was calling, she hung up. Said it was probably a telemarketer, but I don't know, man. It was weird. I knew exactly who it was. She must have dug around online, Maybe through social media, found out who I was connected to. My full name wasn't hard to get from my social profiles. It wouldn't take much to track down where I might be going if I posted even a single reunion post. And I had. My Instagram had a picture of my cousin's backyard. It had my location tagged. I felt stupid for not locking everything down sooner. I spent the rest of the day half engaged, trying not to let it show. I didn't want to freak out my family or make a scene, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching or waiting. That night, I scrubbed my social media, removed location tags, locked everything down, switched usernames. But the damage was already done. 2 days later, my Airbnb host called me, saying a woman had shown up outside asking for me. Claimed she was a friend. The host didn't let her in, obviously, but they described her. Fancy looking, kinda aggressive. Short blonde hair, power suit. That was her. Now I was done playing nice. I contacted the police and filed a report. I didn't know what else she planned to do, but showing up to places I was staying, that crossed the line. I also contacted the airline's customer service again and let them know this woman was now actively stalking me. They elevated the case and said someone from their legal department would follow up. Later that week, I got a call from a restricted number. I didn't answer. Then a voicemail came through. I don't know why you had to make it personal. You embarrassed me. You humiliated me. You think you'll walk away from this like you're innocent? You're not. And you'll find out soon enough. Click. I saved the voicemail. Gave it to the police. They confirmed it matched the name I gave and said they were looking into her. But they also said unless she directly threatened harm or trespassed again, it was a gray area. I started looking over my shoulder everywhere I went. And then, just as quickly as it started, everything went quiet. For 2 weeks. No calls. No messages. Nothing. I almost let my guard down. Thought maybe she'd finally gotten bored. Maybe she found someone else to obsess over. I returned home, got back to work. Tried to forget about it. Then I got a package. No return address. Just my name, spelled wrong, subtle enough that someone could claim it was a typo, but I recognized the writing style from those burner accounts. Inside the box? A printed copy of my own photo. The one I'd posted before the reunion. The one I'd taken down. On the back of the photo was a single word, scrawled in black marker. Smile. That's when I knew she wasn't done. And neither was I. I stared at the photo in my hands for what felt like forever. My brain kept cycling through the same question. How did she get this? I'd scrubbed everything. Deleted that post. Locked down every account. But here it was, proof that somewhere along the way, I'd slipped. Maybe a friend had reposted it. Maybe cache data. Maybe she screenshotted it before I ever took it down. Either way, she had it. And she'd sent it to my home. That wasn't just creepy, it was a full-blown threat. She knew where I lived. I called the police again and handed over the package. They took it seriously this time. They started digging deeper into her background. Turns out, she wasn't new to this kind of behavior. There had been complaints filed against her in 3 different states, mostly harassment-related. Nothing ever stuck because she was careful, just careful enough. That was when I realized I had to stop playing defense. If she wanted to play dirty, fine. I could too. I just had to be smarter about it. I started documenting everything. Dates, times, messages, phone calls. I created a full timeline of every interaction, every threat, every strange occurrence since the airport. I backed everything up in 3 different places. I started working with a lawyer to see what legal options I had. But that wasn't the satisfying part. The satisfying part came when I remembered something from that day at the gate, when she was screaming at the agents, trying to board early. She mentioned a meeting. A life-changing meeting. It had sounded like just more ego at the time, but now I wondered if that meeting had been real. And if it had, maybe it was important. Maybe it was something she needed people to believe she was perfect for. So I dug. I found her LinkedIn, eventually. Fake profile photo, but the connections were real. She worked in consulting, seemed to specialize in corporate leadership programs. A lot of her content was about emotional intelligence and respect in the workplace. The irony nearly killed me. I looked up the company she worked with the most. They'd posted recently about a big executive training seminar in Seattle, the same weekend I was there. That had been her meeting. That was what she was so desperate to get to. Then I found the recordings. Because that day at the airport, people were filming. Not just her yelling at the gate, but also her on the plane, refusing the back seat, screaming at the flight attendant. I'd never searched for it before, but it turns out someone had uploaded the whole scene to TikTok and YouTube. It had low views, buried under generic titles, but it was her. Clear as day. And I had the timeline to back it up. I contacted the company hosting that seminar. Sent them the links. Sent them screenshots of her fake messages to me, the Facebook threats, even the police report. I never said a word to her. I let the footage speak for itself. 3 days later, I got a call from someone inside that company. Not a lawyer, just a manager who appreciated the heads up. They confirmed she was removed from all upcoming events, and they'd begun internal conversations about her behavior. She'd built her whole career around being a polished, poised leadership expert. And now? Her name was attached to a viral meltdown on a flight and a growing list of harassment reports. But she still didn't stop. 2 weeks after that, I came home to find the back tire on my car slashed. I checked my doorbell camera and there it was, her face. Her eyes. No mask. Clear as day. That was the final nail. I gave the footage to the cops. With everything else, the messages, the stalking, the package, and now property damage, they had enough to charge her. A warrant went out. She was arrested 2 days later at her apartment in Charlotte. The moment I heard the news, I felt something strange. Not relief. Not joy. Just quiet. Like all the noise in my head suddenly stopped. They charged her with felony stalking, criminal harassment, and destruction of property. Her lawyer tried to play it down, claimed she was emotionally unstable, and had a moment of breakdown. But no one was buying it anymore. A few months later, I got a letter. From her. It wasn't an apology. Not really. Just a mess of rambling excuses. How everything in her life had gone sideways. How she felt like people didn't respect her. How the airport incident was the moment she snapped, and how I reminded her of someone who had wronged her in the past. She said, I never meant to go that far. But you kept pushing me. I burned the letter. And I'll be honest, yeah, I could have walked away after the airport. I could have shrugged it off. But when someone comes for you, stalks you, tries to mess with your life just because they're having a bad day, that's not someone you give the benefit of the doubt. I gave her a chance to back off. She chose to go to war. I didn't start this, but I damn sure finished it.